Hello everyone, I'm Mandy Lockley and welcome to On Purpose Astrology. Today I'm talking about the full moon in Aries on the 29th of September. I'm going to share the screen so that you can see the chart for the full moon. Here you go. So you can see at the top of the chart circled, we've got the sun in Libra opposite the moon in Aries. It's a full moon. It's a super moon. It's the last of 4 super moons in a row. What does that mean? Well, that basically means that during a super moon, the moon is the closest to the Earth that it can get. So it's called perihelion, actually, if you want the technical term, the astronomical term. But as the moon orbits the Earth, it doesn't just orbit the Earth in just a perfect circle, it also goes around like this. So it goes, that's called declination. So at some points it's very close to the Earth, and at other points it's further away. It's a mere 224 657,000 miles or 362,000 kilometers from the Earth. Sounds like a long way, but when you consider that Mars is 140 million miles and 225 million kilometers, you can see how close the moon is to the Earth. It's a satellite of the Earth. Of course, it's not a planet, it doesn't go around the sun. So a full moon on a super full moon is intense. It's intense because it's the culmination. It's the peak of the moon cycle. So we've got 2 peaks of the moon cycle going on. We've got the perihelion, as I've talked about, with the moon continuing to be very close to the Earth, and then the peak of the monthly cycle of the moon, which is the full moon. And there's a lot of intensity in this chart. When the moon is full, we see, when the moon is full, we're charged with energy. We talk about, you might have heard about lunacy. You know, people go out, get drunk. There's probably more crime. There's probably more, sociability. I mean, certainly with the Aries and Libra here, people want to get out. They want to enjoy themselves. And this, you know, falls on the 29th. So it's an evening where there is sort of, people are going to be out and about. It's the end of the working week, so to speak. So Aries full moon in particular. Well, what does Aries stand for? It's the warrior spirit. It's the pioneer. Aries likes to go, needs to go its own way, needs to do its own thing, stand in its own authority, in its own sovereignty. Self-actualization is the key word for Aries. It's the first sign of the zodiac. It's I am here, I have arrived, and I will be me without compromise. That's why Aries has a reputation for maybe taking risks, for acting first, thinking later, or acting without thinking at all. During this full moon, it could be a horny moon. I say that because it's ruled by Mars, and Mars has something to do. It's not just the god of war, it's also to do with sex and sexuality. So you might find yourself getting horny or restlessness. There's nothing worse than a bored Aries. They get restlessness, and that's when they get mischievous and they just want to do stuff. They lack patience, but they're adventurous. And the way that Aries leads is that it forges a path. It goes where other people might be too scared to go at first. It goes first, it pioneers, and it forges a path. Doesn't micromanage as a leader, Aries. It shows others the way. It goes its own way and opens a path for others so that they have a path to follow. It's the early adopter, Aries. It's right in there at the beginning. Single-minded focus is also a quality of Aries. Spontaneity as well is another quality of Aries. These are some qualities for Aries itself. Now, if you want to follow along and find out where this full moon falls in your chart, you can see them circled here. House 4, you can see the moon in Aries, and house 10, you can see the sun in Libra, that opposition between the sun and the moon, the full moon. The chart is set for London, which is where I live. It will no doubt fall in different houses in your birth chart. Houses are those numbered segments. They're called houses, and each house represents an area of life. So if you don't know your chart and you want to know what area of life this full moon might impact and some of the other aspects that I'm going to be talking about, what houses do they fall in? What you can do, you can find a free chart, find your own free chart on astro.com. Put your birth time in and it will show you your houses. If you don't know your birth time, put midday in. But it's best if you do, if you don't know your birth time, I mean, it's best if you do know your birth time with some degree of accuracy. It's usually on most people's birth certificates. So get your chart up, have a look, see where your houses are, see where Aries and Libra falls in your chart, and you'll see the area of life that may be affected by this full moon. As I said, if you want to know, basic details on what those areas of life are, you can have a look at my video for the new moon in Virgo. I will, at the end of that video, I do talk about some of the key points, the key descriptions for each of the houses and what area of life they correspond to. And I'll put the link to that in the description here, as well as I'll tell you where to fast forward onto the video to find that information. It's also available online at various websites as well. So that's Aries anyway, that's the Aries. So 6 degrees, you can see exactly 6 degrees of Aries is the moon. And of course, the opposition with Sun, it's exactly 6 degrees of Libra. So also, not just to look at the houses in general, but if you want to look at the stronger impact, if you have anything, planets, for example, or angles, which are the beginnings of house 1, 4, 7, and 10, you can see those lines and the segments are slightly thicker to show that they are angles, which are also important, but you need an pretty much accurate birth time to know what your angles are. But if you have planets or angles between 3 degrees or 8 degrees of the so-called cardinal signs, which are Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn, then again, you'll be feeling potentially this full moon a little bit more intensely. So the first thing we look at when we're looking at a full moon, the qualities of the two signs involved in the full moon. We've talked about Aries. Libra is the opposite sign of Aries. It's about relationships with other people, where Aries goes its own way. Libra wants to be in relationship with others. I'm not just talking about intimate relationships, I'm talking about general relationships. It's a very sociable sign. It's not that Aries isn't sociable, it just wants to do its own thing. Other people want to tag along, fine, all the more fun. But Libra wants to build harmonious and peaceful relationships. So that's something to bear in mind when we talk a little bit more. We get more into some of the intense aspects and the intense measurements in this full moon chart. There might be potential for drama. Libra wants to smooth the drama. It wants balance. It wants harmony. Don't get me wrong. Libra can create drama just as much as any other sign as well. But that's the one that Libra might think about the other person. People pleasing, wanting to be liked, using charm is another thing for Libra. So if there's drama, you might find the Libra part of you or the Libra part of someone else who's playing the part of Libra, because we do project the qualities of these signs onto other people, or we show them ourselves, we demonstrate them ourselves, particularly in intense times such as a full moon. So are you the person who is creating the chaos and the drama, or are you experiencing it? That's something to ask yourself. Do you really want to get involved in the drama? Libra is a very sociable sign, super sociable sign, and it needs to be with people. It needs to be in relationship. It needs to be social. but it's also an air sign. So an air sign can kind of step back. An air sign can kind of observe and be a little bit detached from the drama. So if you find yourself in drama, the ruler of the sun in Libra is Venus, which is in the sign of drama, Leo, in a square with Uranus. So yeah, drama is a very much something that could come up, good or bad, of course. Drama can be fun, can be literal drama, sort of acting and having fun and play acting, or it can be sort of like a little bit kind of drama. Take a step back if you don't want to get involved. If you're kind of a conciliatory type of person, like a Libran person who wants to sort of, you know, make things better, do you really want to get involved, or do you want to kind of step back? Some things to think about, because it can be quite an incendiary full moon with the moon in Aries. Kind of things happen very quickly. As I say, Uranus is involved, and Uranus is quick, it's fast. Even in the slow sign of Taurus, Uranus is fast. So we look at what aspects the sun and the moon makes in this chart. So the moon in Aries makes a sesquiquadrate aspect to Venus in this chart, which is actually the ruler of the sun, which is interesting. So what does that mean? What does that indicate? Venus is about our relationships, you know, as we've already said, like Libra, it's all about relationships, but also values. The sesquiquadrate is called a minor aspect. You might not have heard of it. It's not easy to see and it's not often used, but it's really important. It's a 135-degree aspect. And it's highlighted here because there aren't any conjunctions or squares, etc. And, you know, the only opposition between the sun and moon are with each other. So it becomes highlighted. So sesquiquadrate, what is that? Well, it's intense, it's narrow focused. Remember, Aries tends to be narrow focused, so it kind of plays into the narrow focus of the moon in Aries. That can be displayed in like sudden outbursts. Because the second sesquiquadrate in here is that the sun is in a sesquiquadrate to Uranus. Uranus is the urge for freedom. It's the urge for rebellion. It's the urge for just wanting to do your own thing. Unexpected twists is associated with Uranus. So we've got these two sesquiquadrates going on with the sun and the moon to Uranus and Venus, respectively. And then Uranus and Venus are doing an aspect of their own square, which is a particularly intense square because it's the third square that Venus in Leo has made to Uranus. I'll talk about that shortly. But to go back to the sesquiquadrates, yeah, it can be quite a disruptive aspect. So the sudden release of built up tension, that tension that's been building up, especially under a full moon when things suddenly come out, that is a sesquiquadrate energy, emotional tension. Full moons are always very emotional. It's about needing to find that release. So if there's a build-up on tension, whether that's anger or drama, what is trying to find a release here? What is the energy? And how can you discharge that energy in a peaceful way? Patience is what is called for with the sesquiquadrate when they manifest. We don't see them coming. Sometimes, you know, that single point of energy that's discharged with a sesquiquadrate aspect. We don't see that coming because it often comes from unconscious processes. And it's like, oh, someone blew up at me or I blew up at someone else. Where did that come from? understand that it's been building up for a while and reflect on that. Patience, it's what needed when you have these difficult feelings coming up, which isn't easy with a moon in Aries, a full moon in Aries. It's not easy to have patience. Bill Tierney, in his book, The Aspects, Dynamics of Aspects Analysis, um, basically says that, you have to be patient during this sesquiquadrate aspects when they come up. And it's all about self-restraint. Again, is that going to be easy with moon in Aries? Just some things to think about. Breathe and ground and center yourself if you start to feel difficult emotions coming up. If drama finds you, do you really want to get involved? Do you really want to join the drama and put your oar in, or do you want to kind of step back and wait for it to be discharged? And then you can do the Sun in Libra thing if you want to, if you choose to, which is to bring peace, harmony, reconciliation. So strong emotional stuff, particularly coming up in relationships. Everything's about relationships, really. So we're not just talking about intimate relationships, we're talking about any kind of relationships, of course. Full moons do bring up feelings, as I've already said. They do bring up emotions to the surface. Things become seen, and that can be a good thing, that you can kind of see what's been bubbling up under the surface, that comes for release. It's about releasing it in a healthy way. And as I say, not necessarily getting involved in the drama. So elsewhere in the chart, we see a sextile, a nice aspect between Venus and Mars. The reason, and it's a short-lived aspect, and the reason I'm focusing on that is because Venus rules the sun in this chart and Mars rules the moon in this chart. So we're looking at the rulers now of the full moon. So that sextile between Venus and Mars, again, it's another chance for reconciliation, for restoring harmony, for healthy assertion of your needs and feelings. Because the moon is all about what you need, isn't it? And your feelings. So being able to express them in a healthy way within your relationship. Mars here is in Libra as well. So we've got extra Libra energy, extra energy for bringing back harmony. And Venus is all about harmony. I mean, Venus in Leo can be more about the drama. It's a very creative energy as well. Venus in Leo is a super creative energy. It's been in Leo for a while because it's gone retrograde and now it's obviously going forward again. So it's a very creative energy. Could be a destructive energy as well because Venus is in a square to Uranus. But as I say, opportunity here to resolve things peacefully if we can use the energy of this sextile between Venus and Mars. So don't despair if emotions do get really out of hand, or this drama comes out. Interestingly, once those strong emotions, going back to the sesquiquadrates, once the strong emotions come out, once they're discharged, Aries feels a relief. Aries can kind of move on. And what Aries often doesn't understand is that for other people, they can get stuck in that. They can kind of feel that. They can absorb that anger that they felt themselves or that they have discharged into the world onto other people. So again, it's about, with this Aries full moon, it's about feeling and observing, if you can, observing these strong emotions and releasing them in a healthy way. I mean, with Aries, we always talk about moving the physical body, doing exercise, go to the boxing gym or do some martial arts, or just go for a walk or a run or clean the house, or or do it with somebody else actually. that might be a good way to discharge that relationship energy, that energy between people that might be a bit disruptive at the moment. It might be good to go and exercise together, or go for a long walk and have a long talk and really sort of move that body in a dynamic way. Because Mars, the ruler of Aries in this chart, is currently in Libra. So do something with somebody else. Use that sociability of that full moon to do something with somebody else. There's a charm as well. You know, traditionally, Mars isn't very comfortable in Libra. It prefers to be in Aries, right? But in Libra, there's a charm there that you can kind of smooth things over with your charm. As long as you're authentic with it. You see, Aries likes authenticity. So Mars likes authenticity. Mean it if you're going to sort of flatter or compliment, or use your charm to smooth over the waves of any strong emotions. Really make sure that you mean it before you say it. Now, you'll see in this chart there's a T in the middle, going from house 11. Mars, we've just talked about Mars. Mars is conjunct there in the 11th house, the south node. The north node is always opposite the south node. That's in Aries. So we've got a real Aries Libra signature in this chart, haven't we? The nodes will be in Aries for quite a while. They spend 18 months in the chart. You can actually see, if you want to learn more about what I say about my thoughts on the nodal axis in Aries and Libra, there's a video called If You Don't Love Yourself, and I'll put the link below so you can find out a little bit more about that. And it's in, you can see the T there goes down to Pluto in the 3rd house in Capricorn. So this is a T square that has been going on in the sky, and it brings more intensity. Pluto is intense. It's transformational. It's purging. It purges, which means it brings things up to the surface. All the crap that we've been hiding underneath the surface can come up when it is triggered. And the trigger here in this chart is Mars, is associated now with this ongoing T-square between the nodes and Pluto. That T-square was at its most intense in August. It's less intense now, and it fades out. It's going to be with us really until kind of November, almost towards the end of November, and then it kind of fades out. So it's kind of fairly long running. It's been going, it will be going for a few months yet. And the intensity is, as I've already said, in this chart for the full moon, is that it is associated there because there's a conjunction to the south node from Mars in Libra, and it's a full moon, so that's intensity in itself, of course. So what does that mean? Well, as I said, to find, I think it's a 20-minute video about it on my channel, which I'll link. But in brief, the nodal axis puts the focus. It's, as I say, it takes 18 months to go through a sign. The nodal axis, a pair of signs, I mean, always goes through a pair of signs. The nodal axis puts the focus on the signs that it's in. So some of the themes we've already talked about in them, Aries and Libra, yourself and others, like me and we. Who am I in myself as a sovereign person, as a self-actualized person? And who am I in relation to others? And the opportunity here is for transformation of that, for learning more about who you are in yourself and standing in that strength of who you are and not compromising who you are, but while still being who you are in relation to others in a healthy way. And if there is unhealthy ways of being with another person, this T-square in with Pluto will kind of show you. And we might be seeing some more of that during this it's an ongoing process, of course, but we might be seeing some more of that coming up during this full moon, and also in October as well, because we have more intensity, because we have two eclipses happening in October, which I will talk about as well. And you'll see in this chart that in the fifth house, next to the North Node, which is the kind of little squiggle, you'll see another planet. Well, it's a dwarf planet. It's called Eris. It's a black symbol. It's a circle with a line down and then a little arrow at the bottom. Eris. Eris is the sister of Mars, goddess of discord and strife. I've done a whole video as well about Eris, so do have a look at that, and I'll put the link as well on the description so you can find out a little bit more about Eris. But she's the goddess of discord and strife, sister of Mars, and in this chart, obviously, she's opposite Mars, her brother. Battle of the sexes, maybe. That might be a theme that might come up around about now, because Eris is slow, many thousands of years. She's so far out. Her orbit takes many, many thousands of years to go around the sun. She was discovered in Aries, and she's still in Aries. So we're going to have this aspect for a while with Eris, with Pluto as well, the god of the underworld, the goddess of discord and strife, and the god of war currently has come to say hello into this aspect pattern to teach us about our relationships, potentially. Pluto, as we know, is about power. Do we wield our power responsibly? Do we give our power away? Do we realize how powerful we are? Do we realize the impact we have on others? Our actions, how do they impact other people? How does Eris come into this? Well, Eris, as I said, she is the warrior female. She is the feminist icon. She is very prominent, even before she was discovered. She was prominent in the charts of very influential historical feminists, equal rights for women. When you think that Pluto and Capricorn itself, particularly Pluto and Capricorn, stands for the patriarchy, you'll see there's some tensions there, talking about in the wider world, but also in our own world, potentially. Where do women get unfair advantage? Where do women get an unfair deal, right? Where do women get an unfair deal? And how are women going to fight to get fairness and equality? Eris isn't about signing a petition. Eris goes in for the fight and doesn't want to give up. She's uncompromising. It's interesting because in this chart, you've got Mars in Libra, which Mars doesn't want to compromise, but Mars in Libra is forced to compromise. So I wonder what compromises might be made, as I say, in your relationships as well. Pluto isn't an easy energy to have in a relationship aspect, in these nodes here between Aries and Libra and then Capricorn. But Pluto is on the shift to Aquarius. It's already had a dip into Aquarius, and then it's going to go into Aquarius for a few months next year, and then by the end of next year it will be in Aquarius for the best part of about 20 years. So it's about negotiating that change. It's negotiating that change in the dynamics of society, which we will see unfolding over 20 years. Over the 20-year period, we've already seen things coming. It's about equality. Aquarius is about equality. Eris is about equality. Interestingly, Eris is also strong in the charts of thinkers who changed the paradigm, historical thinkers who changed the paradigm, who came up with ideas and theories that might have been thought as heresy at the time, but actually turned out to be world changing. So again, what changes are going to come in? So we're looking more to the future here as well, of course. But these are some things to think about. These are some things to think about more deeply in our own lives and also in our communities and in our countries and in our worlds. Where can women get a better deal? Where can the warrior feminine find its place in the world? Aries came in to ask women to do that. The divine feminine. The divine feminine itself isn't actually just about women. It's about the divine feminine in all of us. And who doesn't want a fairer society for everyone? Well, not everyone does, as we know. Pluto will show us where things aren't fair in the traditional patriarchal society that we are still, most of us, living within. So, as I said, you want to find out more about Aries, have a look at that video. And it's also about setting boundaries as well. This is a reminder during this full moon to set boundaries, to set our own boundaries, to stay in our own energy, to set boundaries with others, to not give our power away. Boundaries is so important for Capricorn, Pluto and Capricorn in particular. So the North Node, as I say, is in Aries again, speaks again about our individuality, about being our authentic self. With Aries there, being our authentic self, unapologetically. Again, Libra's at the other end of that. So unapologetically, but without harm, to do no harm to others while we express our individuality. It's about balance. It's about finding that right balance. So the final thing I want to talk about is Venus in the ninth house in Leo in a square to Uranus here in the seventh house. You can see I've just put that in a red line. I've already noted that Venus went retrograde. So Venus, obviously, it's a fast-moving planet, and normally, it's very regularly makes an aspect to Uranus, and then it moves on just one aspect, one square or one opposition or one conjunction, etc., while it's in one sign. But occasionally Venus will go retrograde, which means from our perspective here on Earth, Venus goes backwards and then it goes forward again. So that means that Venus in Leo has made 3 squares to Uranus. Those were in July the 23rd, September the 3rd. Sorry, I'll correct that. Sorry, 2nd of July was the first square when Venus was going direct. Then when it was going retrograde, it made an aspect on the 9th of August, another square aspect to Uranus then. And the final square aspect of Venus in Leo to Uranus, the exact square, is on the day of the full moon in Aries. So that's why it's good to highlight that. It's good to talk about that because, again, it's intense. So it's exciting. Full moons can be exciting, and this aspect between Venus and Uranus can be exciting. Can lose your cool a little bit, potentially, as well. Particularly in relationships. Are you feeling restless in your relationship? Do you want more freedom or independence? Venus, Uranus can actually have the need, highlight the need. Don't forget to think through the whole summer, think through sort of from July, from maybe late June onwards to now. How have you been feeling in your relationships? Have there been breakups? Have you met someone new and exciting who's unusual, not your usual type? And how is that working out? As we get to the end of these squares, how do you feel now? Is it right? Is it time to change things? Do you need more independence in your relationships? Do you need more freedom? Are you wanting to commit, but the other person doesn't, or vice versa? Things to think about during this final resolving square between Venus in Leo and Uranus in Taurus there. Uranus in Taurus, Taurus is a loyal sign. where does your loyalty lie? With yourself or with the other person or together as a team? Is there some misplaced loyalty there? Uranus is not known for being in relationships, for being totally faithful. I'm not saying that, I'm not suggesting that anyone in a relationship who's affected by this is by this aspect is going to be cheated on or is going to want to cheat. But it is a potential there. And I'll just say that if you have, for all of these squares between Venus and Uranus, if you have anything in the fixed signs between the 19 degrees and 24 degrees of the fixed signs are obviously Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, and Aquarius. So anything between 19 and 24 degrees, then you will have had these squares affecting your chart in whatever area that they fall in as well in the houses that we've already talked about. So are your relationships changing? Are there new relationships? Do you want to break up or have you been broken up with? So things up for review. Always when there's strong Uranus activity going on, particularly if it hits your chart directly, it's worth kind of asking yourself like, oh, in that want for something new or some new change, are you throwing away, as we say, the baby with the bathwater? Think about things. We talked already about needing to have patience at this time during the full moon. Wait and see. Don't put up, obviously, with relationships that are abusive. Get out. And Venus Uranus actually supports getting out of really difficult relationships. But in a relationship that has potential, where there's a potential for happiness, there's a potential for commitment, or the potential to have your needs to be met, whether that is needs for a relationship that gives you some freedom and independence, for example, then try and be a little bit patient because potential is for drama during this full moon. Venus in Leo, as I already said, it's really creative, but it can be quite dramatic. And the effects of Uranus can be quite sudden and dramatic. So, as I said, don't kind of do anything too impetuous at this time if you can help it, if it's not going to serve you. It might be a snap decision that's the best decision you've ever made regarding a relationship. Wow. But try and find the right way to do things and to, not kind of draw a line and cut yourself off because Uranus I'm just going to cut myself off suddenly. Remember, we've got the Libra energy going on and we've got to think about other people's feelings as well. And sometimes there might be no going back if we end something that really we didn't want to end in a fit of kind of temper, not saying this is going to happen. I think I get the sense that most people here who listen to these videos are on a growth journey anyway and understand a lot of these things and, are trying to, I think, live through the energies to the best that they can to raise the vibration, to use, for example, this Venus-Uranus square in a creative way, to come into your own authority, your own autonomy, your own independence, while still maintaining healthy relationships. Love yourself. I think that's very good for Venus in Leo. Perhaps the journey of this Uranus square to Venus has been learning to love yourself. It's certainly a journey that I've been on, and I can honestly say that I do love myself, and there's nothing wrong with that. We are perhaps taught to say, I remember when I was a kid and you go, someone's kind of seemed to be confident, maybe a little bit cocky, and when you're a kid or a teenager or a young adult, and go, oh, they love themselves in a derogatory way. Love yourself. Love yourself. Be yourself and love yourself. Very much a message of this chart, a positive message of this chart. Growth and wisdom. Growth and wisdom is a lot of potential here in this chart. I think there is a lot of potential. There's always a lot of potential, despite the intensity that we're all going through at the moment. I'm sure many of us are feeling this. So I would love you to let me know how you're feeling. Comment, maybe ask a question. I can't guarantee to be able to answer all questions, but subscribe as well. I really, really value your viewership here on this still fairly new channel. And I wish you all the best and love and joy and happiness for this full moon. Thank you. Goodbye.